Hello and welcome to the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast, hosted by EFT trainers Michael Barnett, Dr. Silvina Irwin, and EFT supervisor Michael Preston. We are excited to bring you this first season of the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast, Foundations, where Michael, Silvina, and Michael will be breaking down the fundamental elements of EFT, helping to build your confidence as an EFT clinician.
Well, welcome back to the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast. As always, I am Michael Preston, along with co-host Michael Barnett.
Hello, good to be back with you, Michael.
Always good. And we're very excited because we have the wonderful Dr. Silvina Irwin back in the studio with us. And we are so excited and just honored to have you with us. Yeah, just glad you're here.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here. It feels like it's been a long time coming, actually, for me to join the show. So I know we were hoping that I would start earlier and life had other plans. So I'm happy to be working with both of you here. So thank you.
It's about time.
Yeah,
Yes.
agreed.
So great to have you back.
You all never get to work together.
Yeah, no.
I can't remember it every day.
I know. I was actually thinking like, okay, this is going to be kind of interesting. We have some built-in couple dynamics on the couples therapy show here.
Yeah. In case you don't know, Michael and Sil co-direct the EFT Center of Los Angeles together. They practice together. I mean, hell, they even live together.
Yes.
Wait, what? We did? What? I knew you looked so familiar. That's great. No, I'm really excited you're back on. This is great. And I think the synergy between the three of us and what we each bring to this is going to be so much value added for everybody listening. So welcome back. And this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I've had a chance to listen to a few of the bits leading up to this point. And I love how the two of you are talking about EFT, how approachable you're making it, kind of breaking down these more complex processes into very relatable ways of understanding it. I think it's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to being a part of the conversation and continuing the conversation with you.
Cool.
Me too.
All right. Yeah. So as we pick up in the show, we are jumping from our last episode where we began talking more about the how we do this tango in stage 1. And we were discussing in our last episode, move 1 and move 2. So if you're listening and you want to get a full scope of the tango, you haven't checked out the last episode, go back, check out the last episode. So you get 1 and 2, because we're going to pick up and we're going to do tango moves 3, 4, and 5 today. And so we're going to be doing this from a stage 1 perspective. And we're going to start breaking down the moves, last 3 moves of the tango, and kind of how it rounds out our session. And so in move 2, to pick up a little bit from last week, in move 2, we're going to have assembled an emotional experience. We're going to have really dove into someone's side of the dance, and we're going to be heightening and bringing emotion forward. But at some point, we've got to do something with it, right? At some point, we've got to ask them, can you do the hard thing, which is, can you talk to your partner? And I think, last week, even we've mentioned it along the way, Michael, you've talked about like what we're really doing in move 2 is starting to bring the vulnerable narrative forward, right? The narrative that the cycle doesn't allow us to connect to.
That's right.
And I've really appreciated that framework, even in thinking about when I'm doing my moves too throughout my work week. But the next thing we have to do is bring the vulnerable narrative directly to their partner, right? So can we start with asking how do you know it's time to do the enactment? How do you know it's time to go from move 2 over to move 3?
I like the way that you're priming it with kind of touching on to move 2. And so if our goal, and I think talking about it from the super high level, is to help couples really not just understand cognitively, but really experience internally that the problem is this dynamic they've created or co-created over time. The reason I say it that way is our entire effort in stage 1 is how are we going to bring this thing that we know about, the cycle, forward in a way that people really get and they start to look at as this is the problem between us, right? We've co-created this thing and this thing gets in the way of our connection. So the reason I say that is in move 2, we've essentially gotten underneath the action tendency. And we know that the action tendency is a culmination of an emotional experience when people are triggered in an attachment dance with their partner. And so our effort in move 2 is to make things very coherent. And so what would I mean by that? That people have a very clear narrative. They understand the story, the movie reel that gets set in motion every time the person they love triggers them with that move that they do. And as we tell the narrative, it's usually a very heavy emotional experience. It's sad or it's painful or it's frightening, and we help people through our alliance. We help people move inside themselves so they actually can engage with the narrative, so they're feeling it. So by the time we're moving to move 3, we have coherence. We have coherence in terms of the narrative is organized and clear, and people are feeling it, and we can see emotion happening. And so it's at that point that we want to move to an enactment. So I don't know if you wanted to say more about that frame, Sil, or because I know we talk about this all the time.
I was just going to add, I mean, I really appreciate how you're speaking about it. I guess that the piece that I would add is just the importance of doing it, as you're speaking about having engaged primary emotion and vulnerable emotion, having a sense of coherence around it. But it's not enough, to make it sort of this internal awareness and insight. And we have to make that relational, right? And that's where the magic can happen. That we're creating new experiences. So I just want to underscore, we talk about the moves of the tango, but it feels so important to understand why we are doing that and just underscoring how we are creating experiences with that. And it's not enough to have an experience just one-on-one with a therapist. We have to create that relational experience with partners. Like, what happens when you start turning and bringing that vulnerability forward? And we can answer all kinds of questions and create all new experiences for partners. So I know we'll go into the how of that in just a moment, but it just feels really to speak to that.
Yeah. It's like this is an experiential model, and it's not, it is experiential with the therapist, but it better be experiential for the couple.
That's right. That's right. And so if we're talking about change coming from experience, we are now crafting opportunities for couples to have a new experience. And well, what happens in that space? And it can go a few different directions, which I know we'll talk about in just a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It does not always go smoothly.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Not even for y'all. Not even for y'all does it always go smoothly.
But what you're saying feels really important, because I think I actually can't think of an exception to the fact that I think almost every single therapist, when we go through graduate school, we're all well trained in individual therapy. And so a tendency, especially early on, is we can get so focused on helping people get in touch with their own personal emotional experience. But what we're bringing forward when we're working with the cycle or the dynamic or the system, whatever you want to call it, is people's pain is in context of their relationship with their significant other. And so in move 2, we've kind of focused on one person, helped organize their emotional experience, help them engage with it. And now we're going to really bring it to their partner. And that is the key. And so if we think about the cycle, we're creating a moment in time where there's a different step in the dance. And rather than people feeling that intense emotional experience that often they're not aware of, that we help them be aware of in move 2, now they're aware of it, they're feeling it. And based on what we know about felt security, when people feel vulnerable and they feel secure in their relationships, they will lean in and share. When they don't feel secure, then the insecure strategies show up, avoidance or anxious, shutting down, ramping up. So here we want to help people move into the vulnerable experience, turn and share that with their partner in a really open, vulnerable way. And we're banking on what we know about emotion. We know that emotion organizes social interaction. And if someone shares from a vulnerable place, the likelihood of their partner leaning in and responding with empathy and care is infinitely higher than if they feel those feelings, turn away, shut their partner out. They feel those feelings, lash out, push their partner away. So we're banking on creating this new moment between them while they feel this same really distressing emotion that can often create disconnection. And that's the essence of what we're trying to accomplish in an.
Yeah. I love that.
It feels like it brings together, attachment processes, emotional processes, systemic processes, and experiential processes all in one moment.
This is why this is why it's so important and why it's not easy. We're like, it's the culmination moment, right? This is what we're working towards.
Right.
And so this move 3 is so important. It's like from just a what you're doing perspective, it's quite simple. It's turning and saying, share that with your partner. Like bring that piece to your partner, right? But it's all the things that we've done and brought, like you were just saying, it's this moment has all the punch, and we're sending this new vulnerable signal to their partner. I often say it's like, for a long time, the cycle, they would come up to this spot in the road and the cycle would only allow them to take the left-hand road, right? And what we're doing is we're slowing down and we're clearing a path so they could take the right-hand road.
Yeah.
Right. And saying, hey, we're right here. We're now at the fork in the road where this is the moment where you would normally get taken over and either shut down or maybe lash out. But I'm going to ask, can you turn to your partner with what you've been sharing with me? And can you go down the right path? That's not been open when you move so quickly and the cycle takes over. But we're opening up a new road and asking, can you go down that road with your partner?
Exactly.
It's like a new possibility.
And it's a new experience, right? We were talking about experiential, making this experiential. And right now they're feeling the same feeling and they're having a new experience. They're sharing it directly with their partner. And that's what we're creating in the enactment, right? The system has a move in it, and a new move based on what we know from attachment. Yeah, the way move 3 encapsulates all those things. I think there's got to be like a T-shirt in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, and it reminds me, and I know we need to talk a little bit more about like, well, so how do we do this? But it reminds me of just sort of early when I was learning EFT, and it didn't make sense to me until I really kind of got it a little bit more in my bones. Sue would say, everything we do is in service of the enactment.
Yeah.
When we start move 1, it is in service of enactment. It's not an end in of itself. When you're doing move 2, it's not an endpoint in and of itself. It's all in service of, can we make this now relational? Always.
Yeah.
Right. So that's always really helped me thinking about, we're always working towards the enactment. I'm always attuning my ears to what's the vulnerability, where does that live, and how can we talk about that in a relational way.
I'm really excited to share with you all an opportunity starting in February. If you are newer to EFT, maybe you've just finished your core skills, or you've been here a long time and you find yourself not knowing your way around the Tango, and in session you can't remember where you are on that map, I want to invite you to join a small group deliberate practice for the EFT Tango. This is a 10 meeting supervision focused on each move of the Tango. In this group, we will discuss the moves of the Tango, and then we'll watch a live session example of that move in the Tango. Then we'll have time for role play, and I'll join each group to provide feedback for your role plays, and I'll be there every step of the way to help guide you into a deeper understanding of the Tango and a more confident way of working through it. I hope you will consider joining. Visit www.michaelprestonlpc.com/tango for more information.
So you were naming earlier, when that emotion comes on and it's organized, and the person can begin to see how their primary emotion, right, whether that's their sadness, their hurt, their aloneness, is organizing their move in the cycle. And you were naming, Michael, there's oftentimes when we do this, emotion begins to show up strongly in the room, and we should be feeling it with them. And then, so I'd love to hear from each of you. How do you package that and then begin to ask someone to share that with their partner? What does that really look like for you?
Can I say one sort of nuance also, just about, we're talking about emotion being engaged. Well, how do we even know emotion is engaged, right?
Yes, please.
Can talk
Arts and
about
wisdom there.
Right. So I feel like it's important to get some markers for yourself. And sometimes people are feeling things deeply, but there are no obvious tells.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're working on Zoom, it might be even harder to see, like,
That's hard.
The skin, or you might not see the wringing of the hands,
That's
so
right.
there are some things that I think we need to pay attention to in terms of, well, how do you know? So sometimes we can just even ask, are you touched, if they're talking about moments of sadness when they put some bricks in the wall, we can always ask, are you touching some of that sadness right now? And people may say kind of, or no, or they may say yes, right? A number of different directions you can go in. So then we can ask them, where are you feeling that? And I say that because I work with a lot of folks who they look cool as a cucumber. And I know, Michael, I've heard, Barnett, I've heard you talk about a number of clients where you would not know they were having an intense emotional experience. And if I was only looking for tears, if I was only looking for obvious like slumpage, then I could really miss some engaged emotion. Slumpage, is that a new word?
I like that. I gotta have to look for slumpage.
Yeah. So just asking, hey, are you touching some of that right now? Where is
Yeah,
that
that's
inside
a
of you?
great question.
Or what's
I
happening
like that.
in your heart as you talk about this place of sadness?
Mm.
Again, that gives you some handles onto whether or not emotion is really up and running. And then when it is, that's one of the, check marks for
Yeah.
us in terms of
No, I think
meaning.
it also helps you learn that particular client. And I think these things do stay with us when we ask that question and we're really surprised, right? When the person goes, yeah, I feel all of my chest. And sometimes I'm like, I had no idea you were feeling it, right?
Yeah.
But then I
Exactly.
start logging that. And when I'm working
Yeah.
with that person again, I remember, right, that they're probably not going to show me that emotion so overtly. I'm going to have to ask to make sure that it's in the room.
So you learn their language, right?
Yeah.
So, there is what we're really talking about. There's such a range of the way
Mm.
people experience and express that. And that can change and grow over time. Like one of the things that happens through the course of therapy is people are able to touch into much more of their internal emotional experience, which can be brand new. And some people may never really shed a tear. Other people may be able to really fall into their emotional experience. Other people can tolerate their emotional experience much differently. But I think the main go-to would be what's happening non-verbally, right? And there are people who are very expressive where it's a no-brainer. You can see the tears or the crying or the chins trembling or some
Yeah,
version
that's me. Put me in the chair and I'm in
Yeah,
bits. I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm an open book.
There are other people who have just a much more kind of avoidance strategy and don't have that same kind of more effusive expression, but you can feel their awareness turning inward. And it may not look like what we would normally frame as emotional, but people can be feeling a lot. I tell the story of a quintessential withdrawal pursuer, and this guy was a doctor, and his dad was a doctor. Not only was he kind of avoidant, but his whole profession kind of underscored that, right? You don't wear your feelings on your sleeves. And when his wife would get really reactive, they said he would go clinical. But as the therapy progressed, he started to get much more in touch with his inner world. And one time they were really kind of getting into it a bit. And I slowed them down and I said, hey, so what's happening now? And he looks at me, and I'll just call him Zach. I said, what's going on, Zach? And Zach looks at me and he goes, hey, Mike, I'm churning in here. I'm churning. And I said, well, Zach, why don't you just turn and tell her all about your churning? What's happening? And he tells her, and you could feel his heart in it. But again, it's not emotionally loaded. It's not flatlined either, but not too far away from it.
Yeah.
But this gentleman just spoke infinitely more to his partner and let her in infinitely deeper than he does when they get triggered at home.
Yeah.
So in these moments, we're looking for emotional engagement. One of the things I will say that I have found a real misnomer that I don't know where this came from, but a lot of people say, well, in stage 2, that's where people really feel emotion deeply. And that's how you know you're in stage 2. I just want to, even though we're talking about quiet ways of expressing, quite frankly, I will lean into people's emotional experience and they will go as far as they can go. And I think it's important because when we start getting into the actual expressed pain of those moments that people have these very painful narratives, their attachment strategy, they're lashing out at their partner or they're shutting them out and shutting them down. It is so compelling. It makes sense because you see and you feel the kind of distress that primes that move in the dance over and over. And really, sometimes without that, partners never really understand. They have their own narrative about what it's like to be hit with their partner step in the cycle. And it's really painful when that's your significant other doing that move to you all the time.
Yeah.
You see the intensity of the emotion. You're like, holy smokes, partner is in such distress. I didn't know this side of my partner existed. And no wonder in that desperate moment, they have to do X, right? Like I have to do something and yell and scream because otherwise I will never, ever get a response from you. And not getting any response leaves me feeling like I am so incredibly unimportant that you don't care about me. Right? And you've been my go-to. You're my only go-to. So this has been overwhelming. So there's a range of emotional expression. And so everything is, again, in service of kind of decriminalizing that action tendency. So when people are not moving into their strategies, into the reactive moves, but instead expressing this directly, and again, it can grow and change over time. People might do a little drib and drab of it, might do it reluctantly, And then in time, you see much more expression and much more safety, much more emotional tolerance happening. So the enactments become much more alive.
Yes.
So right now we're talking about one facet, and that is emotional engagement. What we haven't spoken about is organizing and creating a coherent narrative. And so what it is we're having people enact, right?
Right. What is it?
We've
Like
got the
what?
flavor now, the emotional flavor, but what is it, right?
Because this is where I do think I hear this often, and so I think this is a really important part of it. Is we've just spent a good bit of time with one person collecting a whole lot of information, right? And now we want to turn, and it can be like, okay, here's 2 paragraphs. Can you share that with your partner? And that's not that focused bit, right? Because we these are all amazing things you've just shared with me. I want you to share all of it with your partner, but it's a little, it's more
Right.
focused than that. So
407 years ago, I was hurt really badly by you. And
I remember I've been there, setting up
been
enactment.
there.
I get lost in the enactment. I'm like,
Oh
what
yeah.
right,
am I even talking
right.
about anymore?
Oh yeah.
And now imagine being emotionally engaged and you can't organize if you're really deep in your emotional experience and suddenly we're asking for you to present a novel. People are going to go cognitive because they're going to start tracking what you're speaking about, like what, okay, what.
Right.
So we want to keep it really simple.
Okay.
We want to
Good.
put the salient emotion, the salient vulnerable emotion that has been now engaged and organized, and maybe they have talked about fear and sadness and pain. Maybe all of those have been kind of packaged in there, but we have really maybe been amplifying one.
Mhm.
Bring that one piece forward, right?
Mhm.
And we want to help them basically say, in these moments, when you see me shutting down, right? We want to name the action tendency, help them claim that to their partner. When you see me shutting down, what's really happening is I'm feeling like such a failure in your eyes, and that's unbearable. And so I turn away. That's the best move I've got to deal with this, right? And so what we've done in that one sentence, it's very simple. We've helped them claim their action tendency. We've helped them bring the tender, vulnerable emotion that's driving their step in the dance, and we put it in a detachment frame, right? Because this isn't random pain or random fear or random sadness. It's the pain that's experienced because you feel like a failure to your partner. And so that's it. Those are the main little bits. And we want them to turn and share that piece with their partner. So one thread, keep it simple, stick to their words. This is not the time to go rogue and suddenly create all of these words that don't come from the client, because that's not going to be believable. That's going to be them parroting your words, not the words that came from them, right? So
Yeah,
those
that's
are,
key.
yeah.
I
Stick
appreciate you
to it.
saying that because it's so important to use the client's words.
It
And,
is.
Yes.
and I remember when I was learning the model and I was so intensely trying to be in it and could try to reflect every single important, meaningful reflection that they said in choreographing the enactment. And it was just too much. So
Yeah.
really listening, Gail Palmer said this to me when I began my EFT journey. And she said, always listen with the ear for what hurts. So when we are helping people create an organized narrative and it's really clear, it's cohesive, we may cherry pick 2 or 3 things they said that are really at the core of their attachment distress. And we might say, I was wondering, I hear in these moments, this is what you're experiencing when you lash out.
Mhm.
But I was wondering if you could tell your partner about that. And I will name the 2 or 3 things and maybe tell them through the tears that I see in your eyes right now. So I've choreographed this by naming just a couple succinct things that really feel at the heart of what the person experiences that they often don't express. And I'm often using a nonverbal to keep them in touch with the parts of the emotion that they're engaged with.
Mm.
But keeping it simple. So I'm so glad you said that because it's so easy to be super elaborate, and we lose people. We lose the emotional moment.
I really like bringing like that piece of that body piece in. Or can you speak through the tears that you're sharing with me now? I really enjoyed that piece. So as Sil, you were naming it, I was just kind of writing it down because it's really helpful to kind of walk through it. But you said keep it really simple. And the way that you began to reflect it to them started with saying something about their action tendency. You started saying something like, these moments when I do this, there's something happening here. And then an expression of the primary emotion after that. And then almost like a decriminalizing way of looking at like what is happening there, right?
Right.
And can you turn and share with your partner that part that in that
Part
moment?
they don't see.
When you keep it that simple and you use their words, it's like the final organizing bit. And then you pass that over.
And it really shows the vulnerable human behind the action tendency, that the action tendency eclipses time and time again because it creates a sting in the partner who's receiving it, and they have their own narrative, right? So all they trust as truth is that narrative. So there's so much potency in a direct emotional experience that challenges and expands people's perceptions, right? So hopefully next time they're in a tangle, not a tango, a tangle, a rift, dust up, that this stuff sticks. And like, hey, I see you getting angry right now. Is this one of those moments where you're actually frightened and feeling a little insecure in our relationship? Let's slow down and talk about that. It's the last thing in the world I would want, right? So it can translate with a lot of reps in session to session, translates to home. People start learning to use the thing we're talking about and what's revealed in that as a new way of being with each other in real time.
Love it. Because they actually get to do it, right? Because they're doing it week in and week out. And so there's this grade that in stage one, we're helping push and grow and grabbing deeper and deeper and more engaged emotional experiences. We could probably talk about just stay there for a while, but I want to take us moving on a little bit. So you all provided us really lovely examples of how you set that enactment up. Can you turn and share this parts? And then now we're kind of sitting back, but we're not sitting like we're actively sitting back, right? So I start moving. I literally will move a little bit away from my computer in that moment, but we're not sitting back like we've done our job because we've got more work to do here. And we're observing about what's happening between the two of them. We're observing things like that, if we thought they were emotional turning and talking to us, that emotion tends to come, they might go a little bit removed from it, but it might also turn up even louder. And so we start moving and watching, observing how this goes. And after they share with their partner, what is your move forward? You're now in move 4. We got to process the enactment. And then this is where I think a lot of people ask this question. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Where do I go? Someone has just done something vulnerable. Someone is sitting there listening. Who do I start with now? What do I do?
We are very clear on that.
Okay.
And we have been for pretty much forever. And that is we go to the recipient of the enactment. We want to close the loop interactively. And of course, the person who has just done a new step in the dance, and again, gone against the grain of what feels safe to them, they really want to know how their partner's going to respond. I mean, sometimes people say even before they do an enactment, I'm getting anxious because I'm wondering how my partner's hearing this, right? So there's a lot happening there. And I feel like because this is systemic, this is relational, we've helped a person go inside and move 2, create a coherent experience of their inner world that culminates in the action tendency, lean in a vulnerable way. And now, of course, we want to make it systemic, we want to make it relational. So we have them, they've shared now, and we want to see how their partner responds. And that is such an important piece there. I feel like it's closing the circuit, right? We tend to teach it in a very simple way. People have shared incredible things. The content can be amazing, but there's the process to pay attention to. Or if I say it differently, a new behavioral move has happened, a new step has happened, and we want to process that. So to keep it simple, we'll ask 2 questions usually, and we'll kind of say, can you feel your partner, some version of this, being vulnerable right now? And that's an obvious yes, no question. And perhaps if it was a withdrawer who said something in a more matter-of-fact way, or it sounded really plain, it doesn't feel vulnerable, we might say something like, could you feel your partner working really hard to turn their awareness inward? And just find language for their inner world right now, and then bring it to you. And people tend to say more often than not, yes. And then the next question we ask is really important. We don't say, what was that like for you? But we say, what does it say to you that your partner can bring this to you in a new way? And in doing so, we are really focusing tightly their attention.
Oh, that's great.
On the new move that's just happened, right? Their partner did something very different. And people tend to respond with a lot of care and warmth. And so that's a really beautiful moment. And we want them to share that back, right? So we help them maybe develop that a little bit. Could you flesh that out a little bit? And then could you tell your partner about what that meant to you?
Yeah.
And they tend to say more, in the beginning of therapy, people get kind of stuck. And I know we're going to talk about the complexities that can happen.
Yeah. This is a tricky moment. We want to name
acknowledge that happens. I think,
and we'll do an episode on those things.
Yeah.
Because this is where our therapy session can take a turn, right? It is. And it happens. And you want to know what to do there. But right now we're going to focus on what we're doing and how we're doing this and why we're doing it this way.
I want to add just
Yeah.
two very, very brief points. And I really am so glad, Michael, that you made explicit we go to the receiving partner first, right? And that's so important. I will just say one caveat. There are a couple of exceptions, and that's when sometimes the person who took the risk maybe is so panicked that they tether themselves immediately to you. What did I just do? So sometimes we have to say, wow, that was amazing, right? We can, that was amazing. Wow, look at what you just did. How was it to share? So maybe there are some exceptions, and so we're just taking, that's our attunement, right? But then we very quickly, once they're kind of resourced by us a little bit, we want to bring it back to the relational process, because this is where we want to get the most juice from the squeeze. Like a big moment just happened. So we don't want to lose that. So that move forward and that response is so critical. And I really appreciate those two questions that Michael outlined. Because when we're on the receiving end of our partner's vulnerability, and maybe these are the first couple of times we're really experiencing our partner in that way, so much can come up for the person that's receiving it. And many good things, right? Sometimes it goes sideways, and we'll talk about what, when it doesn't get received well. But that's a place where we can easily start following the trail of the inner experience of the partner. And now the person who took the risk
I'm so
is
glad
never
you're saying that.
really getting the feedback that they need.
That's
And
right.
they're just kind of hanging out on the ledge, without getting any response. Even if there's really lovely things or very vulnerable things that the receiving partner is speaking to. So we always need to think about, how do we keep the process really focused on what the risk taker just did?
Yeah.
Right. And if the receiving person ends up going down a few other trails, acknowledging, I'm seeing a lot's coming up for you. Those are all really important. Can we just bring our attention back for a moment? Your partner just did something really different. Can we go back to that? And we can do that gently, that really honors everyone's experience, but still keeping it focused. So that level of focus feels really, really important. So I just wanted to underscore that.
Well, to keep our focus on what we've been creating in this process is the emerging of a new step in the dance, right? And we're keeping the client's focus on this emergent new step that's happening in front of them. It's happening in real time. And so what is the meaning of that? What is that like, right? This new thing just happened. We're helping you actually step outside of the cycle and create the beginnings of a positive cycle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So it's about that process.
I really appreciate those questions. Move forward is process of process. I think for me, it challenges like, oh, it's not about what they shared. It is about the fact that they've stepped vulnerably toward their partner.
Yeah.
Right. What is it like for you to hear your partner say, it's actually, what is it like for your partner to come vulnerably to you?
Right.
I love that level of focus. And I'm going to use that on Monday.
And one thing I could add, actually, it's coming to mind that I use routinely is also in the enactment, I will deliberately contrast the new emerging move with what usually happens. Right now, there's clearly no anger, or your partner obviously isn't shutting down, or sometimes I'm working with couples where there's some kind of substance abuse. Your partner's not drinking right now, obviously.
Right.
And instead, what they're doing is opening up and sharing with you very vulnerably and in a very calm, open way, and letting you deeply into their experience, right? What does that mean to you that your partner's coming to you in this new way without the anger or without the shutting down? And that really draws people's attention to the new emerging move.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's also very validating to the receiving partner, because the receiving partner in the worst moments is on the receiving end of a step in the cycle. It's very painful for them.
Yeah. A
So
very
we're
different way of
validating-
presenting.
Exactly. And we're making that like crystal clear in the way that we process the enactment.
So partner says, it means a lot to me. This is so wonderful. I get a really positive response. What do you do with that? Where do we go now?
Well, we want to ask the person who took the risk, what's it like to be met in this way? Right? Because they just did something really different. They showed some vulnerability, kind of their tender underbelly, which, as Michael was saying before, it's, every fiber in their being is saying, don't do it, don't do it. Or maybe I haven't done it before. This is really scary. And so we want to ask, wow, you just did something really different. And when you brought your pain to your partner, they met you with such tenderness, and not only tenderness, but really wanting to know more. What is it like for you to be met in this way? And give them a chance to really taste that moment. That's a hard-won moment. That again can go in a couple of different directions.
Yeah.
It feels really good. It feels really different. I don't quite know what to do with this. I've
Yeah.
never done anything like that. Like, it can go in all kinds of ways.
It
And
can.
yes, it can. I know we're gonna
Yeah, we'll
dedicate
get
some
there.
time to all those moments when it's not going so smoothly. But again, these are really hard moments, and we want them to just taste what it's like. And we're creating moments of safety. Like they just learned something. Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can be vulnerable, and I can be met with kindness and compassion. That is a little building block of safety right there. So
Right.
we want them to really run that through their system. We don't want to go fast here at all.
Yeah.
It also, by doing so, it encourages them in kind of a meta processing way to potentially go there again.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, this went well. It felt safe. We may use that language, we may not. But each time when they have that experience of quote unquote success and being received well and responded to well, they'll trust to try to go there again. It adds more safety to the process. Could I add one nugget to what you were saying, Sil?
Hmm.
Because sometimes when people say, your sharing made me feel so much closer, and it was really good. Sometimes I'll stay with that receiving partner and have them expand that. I'll say, it's really lovely what you're saying. This was really good, or you really appreciate it. Could you say a little more about what you're appreciating about this? Have them expand some of their experience so when they enact back to their partner, it's a more robust enactment. They have more to say. They really hold that experience and share a deeper set of layers to their experience there. Kind of, I don't go, wouldn't go like really deeply and elaborately into that. Not often, but
Yeah.
I often sometimes people just give these one word things. And I personally get curious. What are you appreciating that? Well, why
Yeah.
is it good to you? What is this new warm feeling like for you?
Yeah.
It gives them a lot
Yeah.
more to share back.
Yeah. I'm always hoping to hear some version of like, I know they care when they share this way. Like
Yeah.
because so often the cycle keeps care away, and I'm hoping to hear how it helps them feel different in the relationship. When I'm thinking about what is it like for you, what's happening, what does it say to you that your partner's doing this, and want them to be able this. I can really feel how much you care about me, and I'm like, so can you tell your partner that this really helps me see and experience your care? Would you let them know that? And as you were saying, Sil, we stay slow here. And the phrase that you all have used for a long time is really mining this moment. Because this is where all the systemic, all the stuff that we were naming earlier is really coming. And now we're just going to go in as much as we can and get as many miles as we can get out of it. Because we've worked hard to get here.
Right.
So take some time here.
And they've worked hard to get here.
And they've worked hard.
Right. And so when we do this across sessions, right, this becomes more responsive. The person who we've worked with who's doing the enactment can tolerate so much more emotion. More emotion, they can more readily lean in. Their narrative gets clearer and clearer and clearer, more and more coherent. So that just happens across time. Oftentimes we're in a discovery process with people.
Right.
Waking up to their emotional world. And then some people have never had the experience of safely leaning in and it going okay. And so when it does, it's kind of like a magic kind of experience, right? It's beautiful.
Okay. So we have a few minutes here. I want to take us into move 5.
Yeah.
So we've mined our moment. Couples are feeling really good. And then what's move 5? How do we see the importance of move 5 for this moment?
Sometimes, when I can equate this to sometimes when people come into therapy and you're meeting them for the first time, you say, well, help me understand like what happens between the two of you. And they go, I don't know if we can explain that. It just, this thing happens. I had a couple say some version of, we could be peeling potatoes in the kitchen and next thing you know, it's World War III. So it isn't organized. They have this bad feeling, but they can't tell you about it. So now they've had this really good experience and it feels really wonderful. People often don't know what they've done. We offer a process narrative. It's like a consolidation of what happened in the session. And we'll say, well, you talked about this moment that you were on the receiving end of your partner's step in the dance. You began to really explore that very deeply and you came up with a lot of language for it. And to your credit, you let yourself really go into it. You really let yourself feel it. And when those feelings came up, rather than doing the thing you normally do when you get triggered, you turned and you shared so vulnerably. And look what just happened. You pulled your partner to you. That was amazing, because these are the exact same feelings that come up when they actually happen that create a disconnection. But the two of you just did something that created a moment of connection. And so we're really showing in Move 5, we're offering a process narrative of the new emerging step. And we're walking them through in an indirect way what they did to get there. It's like offering indirectly a playbook. Here's how to do this thing, right? So it helps people organize that. It helps people operationalize it. And so enough reps with that over time, people keep hearing it over and over, session to session. They start internalizing, oh yeah, if I turn my awareness inward, find language I can feel, bring it vulnerably, more often than not, my partner comes to me. This is pretty cool. I could try it at home. It's not quite that conscious, but
Yeah.
but
But it does start to happen.
Yeah.
It does start to happen. We do start to hear people come in and say, hey, you know that thing that we kept doing? Yeah. And they'll go, what? Well, we didn't know what to do. We stopped it. We didn't know what else to do next, right? But we're starting to see it. We're starting to know where it goes, and we're finding ourselves going, wait a minute, we don't want to go down that road together, right? Because we know where it goes. And that's that they're getting their footing around it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Move 5.
Yeah, again, I feel like it's so important, and it does not have to be elaborate. It's kind of like this thought just came up for me. It's almost like when you missed the football game, but you can watch the highlight reel,
Yeah.
like the big
I
move
like it.
happened, right?
I like
It's
it.
like that's the highlight
Yeah.
reel of the
My
session,
Google
right?
feed has highlights from 3-minute highlights from sports all the time. So thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that.
exactly.
Right.
But the emphasis is on, the emotional and relational process that unfolded, like what was different. And, it feels important on so many on so many levels. It gives, I think, more hope to couples. It's highlighting what was different and what they can do, and that they can do it again. They can
Yeah.
find that again. We are in some ways, we're creating the narrative and organizing that. So it's not just an emotional experience, right? If it's just an emotional experience, kind of hard to find your way back to that without having, like Michael said, the playbook. This is the highlight reel and playbook all kind of bundled into one. And so that we're creating a narrative for them of what's possible, creating new reference points that they can hook back into. And again, if we even think a little bit from a neurobiological perspective, we're engaging like the whole brain there, right? We're creating, we're laying language and narrative over intense emotional experience. And there's something very galvanizing about that process. And we're helping them do that towards the end of session. I also find it as a helpful tool to myself. It helps myself sort of internalize, okay, here are the moves that have been done. And then at the end of the session, I can just jot a couple of notes about how that all went.
Yeah. And then to know where I'm going my next week with them.
Exactly.
And now I think about what you all are saying, and I had a thought. It's about like when couples come into our sessions, they go, okay, tell us what to do. Tell us, like you just download the information, give us the advice that we need. And we're not doing that in EFT, but we're doing this thing. And then at the very end, it's saying, hey, here's the thing you were looking for, right? Here's the advice you wanted. It's what you just did, right? It's when you do this and your partner can't come close, and then you all have a moment of connection. It's what you just did. I don't know that I ever go like, I never look at a client and say, this is the answer to the question you're looking for. But it is essentially answering like, this is what you're looking for. This is what you didn't know you were wanting when you came in, when you asked for communication skills and tools. It's a reflection of this is what happens when you move differently with each other. And it's already like, and I love it because it's already something in you, and it's already something you have done, not something that's in me that I have to download to you.
Absolutely. And it feels like it really brings sort of the co-creation of that moment together, because it's not just the person who took the risk. It's also the person who responded the way they responded. And together they created something new and different.
Yeah.
And that
So again, it's another systemic moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 in 5, kind of touching each other right there.
Well, listen, we're gonna need to wrap this one up. I appreciate this conversation. Well, because I think there's a picture that you all are helping offer of like what this looks like when we're sitting in our office, and the questions we can lean in with, and the pieces we're folding together, what we're asking couples to do, how we're helping couples engage with the process of the process, and then how we help hold the whole thing for them so they can begin to see the big picture of how they move together. So again, I thank you both for sharing your wisdom. I always appreciate our conversation.
Great. It's so great having you back.
Thank you. It's great to be
Yeah,
here.
it's fantastic.
I loved it. It was great. Thanks again. Thanks again for carving some time out, Sil.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you.
right. Until next time, we'll see y'all.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast. We hope this podcast is an encouragement to your EFT journey, bringing clarity and understanding of EFT to your work. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts to stay up to date with each new episode. To learn more about training or supervision opportunities with Michael Barnett, go to michaelbarnettlpc.com. With Dr. Silvina Irwin, go to drsilvinairwin.com. And with Michael Preston, go to michaelprestonlpc.com. Tune in again next time to hear more of this great conversation.